Gentlemen, what I'm about to share will shock you. Most good men think they know everything about their wives, about love, about desire, about intimacy. But the truth, it's deeper, more mysterious, and far more powerful than you ever imagined. There are things she feels, needs, and silently hopes for, things she'll never say out loud. And if you don't understand them, you could lose her without even knowing it. Today, I'll reveal the hidden truths about your wife's heart and mind, secrets that will change how you see her, how you love her, and how you connect in ways that go beyond the bedroom. Watch closely, because missing this could be the biggest regret of your life. Drop a comment below, where are you watching from? And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss life-changing insights like this. You know, most good men believe they truly understand their wives. They think they know what she wants, what excites her, what makes her happy. And yet, despite years of marriage or a seemingly deep connection, there's a vast territory inside her mind and heart that remains unexplored. This isn't because she's hiding from you. It's because human desire, particularly a woman's, is far more nuanced than society leads us to believe. Men often approach intimacy as a set of predictable actions, certain words, certain touches, certain timing. And when it works, they feel successful. But what they fail to realize is that desire isn't just about actions. It's about connection. It's about feeling seen, understood, and valued in ways that transcend physicality. And this is where the first shock comes for most men. They often don't see what their wives truly need to feel desire. You see, women's sexual desire is intricately woven with emotion, perception, and psychological security. A woman doesn't just want to be touched. She wants to feel safe enough to let her vulnerability show. She doesn't just want to be desired. She wants to be cherished for who she truly is beyond the surface. And this is where men get it wrong. They assume that physical attention alone is enough to maintain passion, ignoring the profound emotional currents beneath. She craves emotional intimacy, the quiet, almost invisible ways a man shows understanding, respect, and empathy. These things might seem small or insignificant, but in truth, they are the foundation of her desire. When these elements are missing, even the most physically passionate encounters can feel hollow. Think about it. How often do men really ask, what she wants beyond the obvious? How often do they pause to notice the subtleties, the way her eyes linger, the small gestures she makes, the quiet sighs, or the brief smiles? These aren't trivial, they are signals, whispers of her inner world, and understanding them requires more than intuition. It requires attention, patience, and emotional intelligence. Most men are trained to respond to what they see, to what's explicit, but women often communicate their deepest needs through what is not said. The danger is in assuming silence is consent, or that lack of verbal instruction means indifference. The reality is far more complex and far more revealing. Here's another truth that surprises many men. A woman's desire often grows from feeling understood, appreciated, and emotionally connected, rather than from grand gestures or dramatic moments. She wants a partner who can enter her mind and heart without judgment, who listens not only to words, but also to feelings, fears, and subtle cues. And when that connection is present, desire ignites naturally. It's a kind of alchemy that cannot be forced, only cultivated. Men who understand this are able to deepen intimacy in ways that are invisible to the untrained eye, but profoundly felt in the heart. It's also worth noting that this emotional dimension is not static. It evolves. Just as a man changes over time, so does a woman. Life, stress, work, children, personal growth, these all influence her desire and what she needs from her partner. A man who assumes that what worked 5 or 10 years ago will work forever is setting himself up for disappointment. Desire is dynamic, and the ability to tune into these changes, to observe, to adapt, to respond thoughtfully, is what separates a man who maintains a passionate, lasting connection from one who is shocked to find intimacy fading. And let's be honest, there's a philosophical layer here as well. Desire is not merely biological or instinctive, it is a dialogue between minds, an interplay of consciousness, emotions, and mutual understanding. Men who reduce it to mechanics, who believe that sex is only about timing or technique miss the depth of the human experience they are privileged to share. Understanding a woman's desire is understanding her existence, her psyche, her emotional landscape. And once you grasp that, the way you relate to her shifts profoundly. It becomes less about performance and more about presence. Presence is more powerful than anything else. It is the unseen currency of desire. So, what does this all mean in practical terms? It means listening more than speaking, observing more than assuming, and connecting more than performing. It means asking questions, noticing her moods, validating her experiences, and never taking her desire for granted. A man who understands this will find himself not only improving intimacy, but also deepening the love and respect in his marriage. And the truth is, the men who are shocked by this insight are often the ones who never paused to truly see their wives, not just as partners, but as complex, emotionally rich individuals with desires that go far beyond what can be measured physically. At the end of the day, the greatest revelation a good man can have is that intimacy is a shared journey, not a one-sided endeavor. Your wife's desire is not a puzzle to solve, but a living, breathing part of her being that flourishes when nurtured with attention, empathy, and understanding. Recognizing this is not just a key to passion, it's a key to respect, love, and connection that lasts a lifetime. So I leave you with this: do not settle for surface level understanding. Do not assume you know what she wants without truly listening and observing. The moment you choose to understand her heart as deeply as you understand your own, you will discover a depth of connection and desire you never thought possible. And that, gentlemen, is not just shocking, it is transformative. You see, communication about sex isn't as simple as words back and forth. Many men assume that intimacy is about asking, "Do you want this? Do you want that?" As if the right question alone unlocks desire. And while communication is essential, it isn't always verbal. Wives often express their desires in subtle, almost invisible ways through a glance, a touch, a shift in mood, or even a fleeting smile. These signals are not trivial. They are the language of intimacy, a code only men willing to pay attention can understand. And yet, most men overlook them entirely, focusing on what is said rather than what is felt. This is where shock sets in. Many good men think they're attentive, only to realize that their wives have been sending messages all along, messages they simply failed to see. It's not that women are playing games or testing you. On the contrary, their indirect communication reflects a deeper truth desire, trust, and comfort cannot be demanded, they must be nurtured. Women gauge not only what you do, but how you respond, how you interpret their needs, and whether you truly see them beyond appearances. A question may be asked indirectly. Do you think I look okay? On the surface, it may seem trivial or about appearance, but the underlying meaning can be far more intimate. It's a test of attention, reassurance, and emotional presence. Men who fail to recognize this risk misunderstanding, misreading signals, and ultimately disconnecting from the very intimacy they wish to sustain. Psychologically, this is rooted in the way women process connection and desire. Whereas men often approach intimacy in a linear, goal-oriented way, women experience it holistically. Emotional context, shared experiences, and subtle affirmations matter immensely. When a wife feels seen, understood, and emotionally safe, her desire naturally grows. But if these signals are ignored or misunderstood, desire may quietly fade. And here is where the shock lies. It's not the lack of attraction. It's the lack of understanding, the failure to listen deeply and respond thoughtfully, that creates distance. The realization that emotional neglect can silently erode intimacy is eye-opening for many men. Consider the small gestures that often go unnoticed: a hand lightly brushing yours, a lingering touch, a pause before answering, a look that seeks validation. Each of these is a form of communication, a subtle expression of desire or need. But men conditioned to respond only to explicit verbal cues may miss the richness of these signals. Understanding this requires patience, observation, and a willingness to engage with her inner world. It requires emotional intelligence, the ability to sense, interpret, and act on feelings that may not be spoken aloud. And when you begin to notice these cues, something remarkable happens. intimacy deepens. Desire flourishes, and the connection becomes far more resilient than mere physical attraction could ever achieve. It's also important to recognize that miscommunication is not always deliberate. Wives often do not verbalize their desires because of fear of judgment, past disappointments, or societal conditioning. They may assume you already know what they want, or they may be testing whether you are attuned enough to notice without explicit instruction. This is why asking direct questions without observing and interpreting non-verbal cues can sometimes backfire. It may create pressure or make her feel misunderstood. The key is to balance curiosity with sensitivity, inquiry with empathy. To truly connect, you must be both listener and observer, attentive not only to words, but also to energy, mood, and subtle behavior. Philosophically, this teaches us a profound lesson about intimacy. Desire is not transactional, it is relational. It is not about eliciting responses, but about creating a space where she feels safe enough to reveal her authentic self. Men who grasp this principle understand that sexual intimacy is inseparable from emotional intimacy. You cannot cultivate one without nurturing the other. Every glance, every touch, every silent moment carries meaning. Understanding and responding to these signals is not a trick or manipulation. It is an act of love, attentiveness, and commitment. And here is where the power lies. When a man learns to read the subtle language of his wife's desire, he gains access to a depth of intimacy that many never experience. He no longer operates on assumptions or superficial interactions. He becomes present in a way that is transformative, noticing what most men overlook, responding in ways that validate and excite, and building a connection that is emotionally and physically fulfilling. Desire, once mysterious and frustrating, becomes a dialogue, a shared rhythm that strengthens love and passion over time. So, what does this mean for you, the good man listening today? It means paying attention. Not just hearing, but truly listening. It means watching, observing, and noticing small changes in tone, expression, and body language. It means asking questions in a way that invites honesty without pressure, and responding in a way that affirms rather than assumes. The difference between a marriage that thrives and one that stagnates is often the willingness to engage with her on a deeper, more intuitive level. At the end of the day, understanding the unspoken language of your wife's desire is not an optional skill. It is essential. The men who ignore it may be shocked to find intimacy slipping quietly away, even if they believe everything is fine. The men who embrace it discover connection, excitement, and fulfillment beyond what they ever imagined possible. So here is the truth I want you to take home. Listening is more than words. Observation is more than noticing. Emotional attunement is the key to unlocking the desire that has always been there, quietly waiting for the man willing to truly see her. Step into that awareness, and you will not just ignite desire, you will deepen love, respect, and connection in ways that last a lifetime. Many men are shocked to realize that neglecting the emotional and sexual needs of their wives does not go unnoticed. It's not always loud or dramatic. In fact, it's often quiet, subtle, and easy to miss. A wife may continue to smile, go about her routines, and care for her family, all while quietly feeling disconnected. She may not complain or confront you directly, but her heart and mind know when she's being overlooked. This is the shock, the realization that her emotional and sexual fulfillment matters just as much as, if not more than, the gestures or routines men often think are sufficient. The truth is, when you fail to recognize her needs, the intimacy you once enjoyed begins to erode slowly and imperceptibly until one day, even the closest of marriages can feel distant. It's important to understand that women often communicate dissatisfaction in ways that are not obvious. Silence, withdrawal, or subtle irritability are not signs of anger or indifference. They are signals, warning signs that she is craving attention, connection, and understanding. Men frequently misinterpret these cues, believing everything is fine until the consequences become undeniable. And here lies the lesson: desire and intimacy are living things. They require consistent attention, nurturing, and awareness. They cannot be assumed or taken for granted. Many good men are shocked not because they lack love for their wives, but because they never realized how deeply her needs, both emotional and sexual, intertwine with the health of their marriage. Wives need to feel valued and seen as complex individuals, not just as partners in routine or caretakers of the household. They need a man who is attuned to their moods, responsive to their unspoken signals, and willing to invest emotionally every single day. When these needs are ignored, the repercussions are profound. Desire diminishes, emotional distance grows, and intimacy falters. It's not just about sex. It's about the feeling of being understood, appreciated, and connected at the deepest level. Men who fail to notice this may be stunned when they sense the shift, realizing that their wife's engagement, affection, and desire were quietly contingent on being seen and heard rather than simply being told or acted upon. Psychologically, this teaches a vital lesson about human connection. Desire is relational, not transactional. It is not a reward for effort or a product of routine. It is a reflection of the emotional environment a woman experiences. If she feels ignored, undervalued, or emotionally unsafe, desire retreats. And it retreats quietly, leaving men shocked because the outward appearances of normalcy remain. A wife may continue to participate in daily life, maintain routines, and appear content on the surface, but internally she may be longing for engagement that honors her mind, heart, and body. This invisible withdrawal is one of the most profound shocks a man can experience because it challenges the very assumptions he held about intimacy and connection. Men often think that the remedy for disengagement is grand gestures, expensive gifts, surprise trips, or attempts at physical intimacy, but these alone are rarely sufficient. True reconnection requires attentive observation, consistent emotional investment, and the willingness to meet her where she is. It demands patience, humility, and sensitivity. It requires understanding that intimacy is not a performance, but a living dialogue between two people. Ignoring the subtle cues of disengagement is like ignoring cracks in a foundation. Eventually, the structure of intimacy begins to falter. The good news is that when men recognize this early and actively choose to engage with awareness and care, the relationship can not only recover but thrive on a much deeper level than before. Philosophically, this underscores a deeper truth about marriage and human connection. Intimacy is not static. It is dynamic, evolving, and sensitive to the emotional climate within the relationship. A man who understands this does not view desire as a static resource to be taken for granted. He recognizes that his wife's willingness to engage, her passion, and her emotional presence are all intertwined with how he shows up consistently, thoughtfully, and lovingly. Desire is a mirror reflecting the attention, respect, and care that she experiences. When this mirror is neglected, the reflection diminishes, often quietly and imperceptibly, until the man is shocked to realize how far the distance has grown. Understanding this is transformative. It changes the way a man approaches intimacy, marriage, and connection. He begins to listen more, observe more, and act with intention rather than assumption. He notices the small shifts in mood, the fleeting gestures, and the quiet sighs. He learns to ask questions with curiosity rather than judgment, to respond with empathy rather than obligation, and to see desire not as a tool or goal, but as an evolving expression of emotional safety, trust, and connection. Men who embrace this understanding discover a level of intimacy that is both emotionally and physically fulfilling, a connection that grows richer over time rather than fading under routine. So here is the takeaway. The insight every good man needs to hear: ignoring her needs is not harmless. It has consequences that manifest quietly but profoundly, reshaping the emotional and sexual landscape of your marriage. The shock you feel when you finally see this is not punishment. It is a wake-up call, an opportunity to step fully into awareness, presence, and intentional connection. Desire, once neglected, can be rekindled, but only when met with understanding, empathy, and consistent effort. Remember this: your wife's desire is not a puzzle to solve or a performance to earn. It is a living reflection of your emotional engagement, attention, and care. When you choose to notice, understand, and respond, intimacy flourishes. When you ignore it, even silently, it recedes. The choice is yours, and the consequences are real. Engage fully, listen deeply, and act with awareness, because the depth of your connection, the vitality of your intimacy, and the strength of your love all depend on it.